Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. KM Best tweeted this deck that was created by a user named whatami, and he had leader play as the final kind of capstone, as that kind of surprise in-game element. I liked having the control of Aero instead, but the list that he tweeted out did run leader, but I found that most of the time you don't need either one of those elements to find your winning condition. And so this is the list that I've been running. I ran it from 101 to 106 yesterday. Those of you that joined me on the live stream know that we slid down about 30 cubes, running some kingpin combos. And so we need something to get us back out of that slump. If there is not an update today, then you'll actually be seeing this. If not, then this will probably go by the wayside. But if there is not an update today, then I think you should absolutely abuse this deck before any of these cards get patched. I think Aero, Angela, and Sera are potentially up on the chopping block for a patch whenever collector's tokens release. And so if you're close, if you have these cards and these resources, definitely use this and abuse this while you can to gain some ranks, because this one is very, very strong. It's very flexible. It has the components of being able to do some really strong Nova plays. By being able to flood the board, Nova ends up being something like a 10 power push onto the board for 1 cost, which is very, very strong. You can trigger it with Killmonger to also destroy your opponent's cards. You can kill it with your Carnage. If you don't end up killing it, that's fine most of the time. We also have Sera to enable our counterplays in Shang-Chi and Enchantress. So if they're running like a Devil Dino, if they're running that big destroyer, sometimes you can anticipate that even if it's on the last turn play. Sometimes you can anticipate that destruction or that placement with your Shang-Chi to find the win condition. We also have Aero to yank their cards around. Mysterio is a phenomenal card that interacts with Angela and Bishop beautifully. If you have Angela on the board, the Mysterio or the Mysterio token will trigger Angela. If you have Bishop on the board, every single one of the Bishop tokens will trigger Bishop once, and so that then it's 3 extra value out of Mysterio onto the board. You can get 2 additional value out of it by destroying one of the fake copies with your Carnage. You just have a lot of flexibility in this list and the ability to flood a lot of power very quickly on that final turn. And even if you don't go with one of the counter plays, you can, if you have Sera on the board on 5, you can do something like an Angela, a Sentinel, and a Mysterio for a total of 3 energy. And then you could do something like a Maximus, bring you up to 5. You could throw a Nova. Maybe you sit at 5. Maybe you throw down your Carnage as well into a lane that you already had your Nova set up. You just have a lot of power push and a lot of flexibility to find your win conditions and find win conditions in lanes that maybe you can't play cards into anymore by being able to buff them up with Nova, or if it's your Bishop, you can continue buffing that one up by dropping cards all across the board. And so I definitely recommend checking this one out. That's a very brief explanation of the deck, but let's go ahead and jump into a couple of games. And we're gonna run about 5 today to make the video a little bit longer than what I have been. I've been asked if I can extend the gameplay or the videos just a little bit. And so we're going to try about 5 games in the video to see how that does. Let me know how you like it in the comment section down below. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into a few games. All right, so first up we have Molt YouTube. So if you don't know Molt, you probably should. He's a fellow content creator, does a lot of streams, does a lot of content. So if you haven't checked him out, definitely check out his channel. But if you joined my live stream today, or I guess depending on when this comes out, it'd be earlier today, you know that we lost quite a few cubes. We lost about 36 cubes over the course of the stream, and it was just a downward spiral. It was a very bad session. And so this deck is going to be the key to getting those back. It offers quite a bit of flexibility. It offers a lot of counterplay. Really, almost regardless of what the opponent plays, we can find a win condition. And so we're going to throw our Bishop into Asgard. They are likely going to compete for the Asgard location, and that's okay. I think so. They're going to have 5 power here. I assume that they outpower us in the Asgard location. We have initiative, so we couldn't even do a like tempo Shang-Chi to try to counter this. We're going to throw a Sentinel. I don't think it's going to be enough to win this location, but next turn we'll be able to do a Sera, and then we'll be able to control where their card goes on that final turn with our Aero, maybe our Aero and something else. Maybe we do Aero on this next turn. Ooh, so they do a Sandman. That is a low tempo play. Now we have the same negative downside that he does. And so we can both only play one card. He has an extra energy, so he can play a 6 power card this turn. But the Sandman with an Electro is a tough sell. So our Bishop's not going to get incredibly large. I think we're going to play our Aero into the Lechu. But what if they're going for a Black Panther and then into a ramp? I think we're going to play our Aero into the Lechugia. Now, he could be playing a deck that goes wide. That would be a pretty decent use of the Electro into Sandman. He could do a Doctor Doom, and then on the next turn he could do an Odin, which would re-trigger that Doctor Doom, and then he could just go incredibly wide. He does a Magneto play, and so right now we are tied in Asgard. We're winning Nova Roma, they're winning the Lechugia. I think we're going to take our one card and just send a Shang-Chi. They're going to have to impact multiple lanes, so if they are going wide, then he's going to win. If not, then we should win the tiebreaker. We're going to wipe this lane out, so we're going to have a 15. So we're going to have a 15 power lead here. So unless they can play 16 or more power, we should have the win condition. And so I'm going to go ahead and lock in the Shang-Chi play into the Gia, and we're going to see what else he plays. Maybe he does the leader, and that... Okay, so the leader does not have a target to grip onto, so we do win the tiebreaker match. So Molt, very good game. If you end up seeing this, you're the first match of our video. Always a pleasure to go up against you. That starts us off on that positive momentum. Let's go ahead and jump into our next game. All right, next up we have Ocelot. And again, if you saw today's stream, you know, Ocelot was one of the matches that I believe we lost. Ocelot is, in general, just a pretty good player. They've been playing since beta. You can tell from the Hulk avatar, and so we're probably in for a pretty decent match anytime we face up against them. So they won't be able to do a Bucky Barnes here unless they're doing a Venom path, because it would destroy the Bucky Barnes and then destroy it again. So we also don't want to flood our hand with Sentinels, so I'm going to play our Sentinel into the far right lane. So they do use Carnage. It's going to trigger twice, but it doesn't have anything else to grab onto. And so that is okay. They've destroyed their one. So they are probably running a Death Wave. It's very, very common right now. Our best potential counter to that is going to be just being able to flood the board. Now, they do have Sinister London, which is okay. If we draw into our Shang-Chi, we can counter that. And Aero becomes much less impactful because we have cards that are going to be able to flood the board early. We're not gonna duplicate our Bishop because we don't want to accidentally send it over into their side of the board, similar to what they're doing with the Killmonger. We're gonna get their Killmonger. We're inheriting it. Don't worry, Killmonger. We're gonna take good care of you. So we get Enchantress. That's not necessarily the card that we need. We do have our Maximus, which is going to be a really big last turn play, especially if we do Sera. We can do that and another card, because I anticipate a wave play sometime soon. A Sentinel in Sinister London is kind of risky. I think we're just going to play it here, because if we did it here, it would do 4, 5, and then actually that'd be 6. But then we can't duplicate our Sera. So I'm actually just going to do the Sentinel. We're not going to do the double Nova. I think I'm going to hold that. We don't have a way to destroy it just yet. They've used their Killmonger. Whoa, what are you doing, Ocelot? They're going to... It looks like they're leaning into playing the wave next turn into a double, like a double Magneto and Death, or whatever that may be, in the Sinister London location on the final turn. I think we can outpower that. We can do Sera. That's going to reduce our cards by 2. If they change them into a 4 cost with wave, we're going to be able to play 3 cards to be able to kind of better position ourselves in a winning spot. And so let's do the double Sera. They do drop the double wave. So they're going to be able to play 2 cards, I assume. I assume one is going to be the Death. So we do have initiative. We can yank whatever the cards they play in Sinister London out. And we can play 3 cards here. Let's do the Maximus. Let's do Aero over here. That's going to take their 2 cards, pull them over into this lane. We can do Maximus as the win condition here, and let's do Enchantress as well. That's going to be the best kind of power dispersion, and we're going to force them into playing their cards into Oscorp Tower because we have initiative. Theirs are not going to duplicate, ours will. We'll win here and here, and we're setting ourselves up to lose in the Oscorp Tower, but that's okay. Now, if they do a leader play, they'll be able to come over here. We still would win this lane because leader would copy the Aero. It would try to move these over. Theirs would copy here, and we would win this lane and this lane. So even against a leader, we're fine. Ooh, so they do play the 2 cards. Let's see what cards they... Ooh, but I didn't take into account the 2 cards if one of those is a leader. So it could be death and leader, which could be kind of tough. So we'll see. We'll see if that's how it goes, but their cards are not going to get duplicated into Carnage no matter what. So the Aero play is not able to grab onto anything. It is what we thought. It's the Bayro deck. It's the Death and Aero. They try to pull their cards over. We have the left lane capped out. We can capitalize and win the Sinister London and Carnage. So again, a very, very good game. But this deck is inherently very flexible, and you're able to counter a lot of the really strong decks right now, and even some of the ones that you don't see as often with things like your Sera, your Aero, your Shang-Chi. And Bishop usually gets between 6, and I've seen him as much as 11 power before. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Jobo, and the first location is Superflow, so we get some extra energy. Not that we necessarily use it for anything. They do get the upside. They have Okoye on the first drop, so every single card that they have left in their deck, which is almost all of them, is going to get the upside from that. Now, we don't have any way to push or pull or move any power into Sanctum Sanctorum, which is kind of unfortunate. Let's go ahead and skip again. We could just tempo drop or Carnage, but I think we're going to hold out and wait just a little bit. They drop a Sunspot. We'll be able to destroy that with either a Killmonger. We could do Shang-Chi at a certain point. We have several options to be able to counter the Sunspot. The rest of the cards is what I'm worried about. Unless we get Sera, we wouldn't be able to do Maximus on the final turn. We could always do a Mysterio, but that's not going to help us here. Actually, we could. As long as we have the Super Flow clear, then we can. So what if we tempo dropped an Enchantress? It's not great, but it's not terrible either. We could tempo drop an Enchantress. We can use Aero on next turn to make sure... Oh, actually, no, they cap out this location. And so depending on what they get here, Medusa, not a good one. Bishop, very good one. We are okay with the Bishop play. The Superflow, if they're looking at doing a... maybe they're looking at doing a Professor X lockdown here. Or maybe they're going to skip and they do the Infinite on that following turn. But either way, I think we're going to play Aero just in case it is a Professor X lockdown. No, but that feels bad. That feels so bad. Let's do it anyways. We're not going to be able to do the Maximus and the other card, unfortunately. Ooh, and our Enchantress would have paid off with the Blue Marvel in the far left lane. Unfortunately, we did already drop it onto the board. Okay, so now we're going to have 6 energy to play with on the final turn. We could do 3... We could do 4, 5, 6 potentially, or maybe we do this. No, we'll do this. It gives us a little bit more power push here. I'm going back again. We're going to do the real Mysterio in left. We're going to do the fake one in right. We can always do the Maximus and the Killmonger for a turn 6 play to destroy their Sunspot. That's what we're going to be looking to do, which would swing the X Mansion for us. And then we want the power push. I guess it doesn't really matter as long as they can't go wide. It wouldn't really matter as long as we win one of the lanes by more than we lose the other. So as long as we have more total power than they do on the board. Okay, so they drop one card. They drop a Rocket Raccoon, which is fine. That gets buffed up. It inherently looks kind of bad, but we do have the Killmonger. They're going to have initiative going into this last turn, which is perfect. No, yes. Yep, they will have initiative going into this last turn, which is perfect. That means that if they do any other 1-cost cards, if they do a Squirrel Girl, we'll be able to kill it in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And so now we can do Maximus over here. We can do Killmonger here. That's going to push 7 more here, which puts us up to 16. That puts us up to 17 because of the Bishop, 18 because of the Killmonger, and then destroying their 9-power Sunspot. I want to snap, but I also don't want to scare them off. And so we're just going to let this one ride out for 2. At this point, with the way that it's lined up, if a Cosmo in far left could end up wiping us. No, we are going to be able to counter the Killmonger. We are going to be able to counter the Zoo because they allowed us to not have initiative on that last turn. They had enough power on the board that their initiative, that they had more initiative than we did. That way, their last turn big power play. Otherwise, they might have been able to find a win condition here. Probably not, but they could have. they would have won the middle location. Then it would have just came down to winning the Superflow, but we were able to anticipate and counter that with the last turn Killmonger. And so with that, let's go ahead and jump over into another one. All right, so next up we have Glacier. The first location is Kiln, which is a little bit tricky, but I think it's all right. We're going to be able to have our Sentinel. We can have our Bishop. If we really need to, we can throw our Maximus in there as well. Oh, now it comes down to what do we prefer to push for? Would we rather push for a potential win in Kiln or throw that into the Raft? I'm going to lean towards the Raft, at least for now. With the way that Sentinel works, we can have that to play every single turn. Ooh, Angela is a tough one for us to overcome in Kiln unless we draw something similar. Let's do Bishop in the Raft. Next turn we can look at either doing an Angela and a Sentinel into Kiln, or maybe we just let them have the Kiln location. I don't know that we have a strong win con over there anyways. Right now it would just be 6 power in this lane, which could give us the win condition, but then I don't know. So let's go ahead and we're going to cap out the Raft location. We're going to give ourselves a free 0 cost card, free 0 cost 6 cost card that we can use to re-trigger some cards. And so we can do we could potentially play Aero next turn. We could re-trigger it with Odin. We have a couple win conditions. Now, if this is the real 5-1, and now Sera comes into play. I think we need to force them into not playing over here. But at the same time, we need to play enough cards on that final turn to continue buffing up our Bishop. Let's do our Aero. We'll see what gets pulled in. If it's not Odin, then we can force, unless they have a lot of cards that can go wide, we can force their cards into being played over into Grand Central instead. Now, I imagine this is the real Mysterio here that they're going to try to compete for our capped out location. Either that, or maybe they're aiming to destroy the middle location. They're taking an awfully long time here. We're going to snap. Sometimes we just snap because we have a decent setup. Not the best, but sometimes if it looks like they're not certain of a play, you just go ahead and snap. And maybe that forces them into the wrong decision. Maybe it forces them into playing in inopportune locations. Of course it pulls into the Odin. Oh my word. That's unfortunate. That is so very unfortunate. We can get a decent amount of power here. If they have an Odin that they can play in this lane, we lose. But I think that's the risk that we're going to take. We had Odin to re-trigger Aero and make sure that this came over. Oh, unfortunately. Wait. Okay, there it goes. So the Odin, I imagine, to re-trigger Gamora and make it massive. Is that... No, it's a Killmonger. Interesting. So that kills our Nova, it kills their Nova, and so it keeps the... Depends on where the real Mysterio is. Their real Mysterio is on the left, ours is on the right. So we are able to win the Grand Central location. They really leaned heavily into Kiln, and we got very, very lucky that they didn't have some kind of Odin to re-trigger this one. That we had a Nova on board with theirs, and so their Killmonger forced that to be destroyed. Had they had a Carnage here, it could have destroyed it without giving us the 4 power bonus. Oh my gosh. We take luck sometimes. We set the pieces up for them to fall how they may. It's not going to happen that way every single game, but we will take it when it does. Let's go ahead and jump over into one more. All right, so next up we have Toxic. They're a little bit toxic, but that's okay. We're okay with a little bit of toxicity. Now, the Icebox into the Iceman combo, strong. Not appreciated, sir. Definitely not appreciated. That makes our Carnage 3, our Shang-Chi 5, which makes it a lot harder for us to do that big counterplay. Now, they do lean into an Ebony Maw, which kind of cool Ebony Maw variant. I haven't seen that one before. But at the same time, we can destroy here and here. Their Ebony Maw is going to slide over from the Bifrost, and so we can clear this lane unless they have something that can go wide. We're going to be able to clear out the Bifrost location. So I think we do our real Mysterio here. We can do a Carnage into the Bifrost to push power over into the Sanctum Sanctorum after turn 4, because they're not going to be able to do anything else here. The only thing that they can hope for is that they can go wide. And if they can go wide, maybe we can rearrange. Maybe we just get outright beaten. But it gives us a fighting chance. Let's do the Nova as well. That's going to give us a pretty decent push here. Pretty decent push here. We have Aero. We have Killmonger. We feel okay. They did ramp last turn. They could do a Professor X. They have 5 energy. They could do a Professor X. They could do a Hobgoblin. They could do a Devil Dino. They can do quite a bit. But it's going to have to be... Oh, the Black Panther is a spicy one. That tells me they probably have Wong, Arnim Zola, a few of those cards as well. And so maybe they're going to aim to destroy this one and then push it here and here. Or maybe they're going to play a big card here. What we have to shoot for in this scenario is to have tempo advantage so that we can go into that last turn kind of heads up. So let's do the Killmonger this turn. That's going to give us the lead here. And it should give us a pretty close to a lead here. Now, they can do a 5 power play. We don't know what that's going to look like. I think this gives us the initiative on that final turn. We can look at either doing an Aero to pull their last turn play away from where they want it to. We could do a Shang-Chi to destroy their Black Panther. We have a couple of options. So they do an Ironheart. Interesting. So their Ironheart does buff up their Black Panther within destruction range. We still have initiative. We can do Shang-Chi. If they're doing an Odin, and they're going to re-trigger this one here, then we're fine. We destroyed this one. If they do Odin here, we're destroying this one. If they do an Arnim Zola and they do the 50-50, we're fine. If they do Arnim Zola here, then it pushes here and here, and we should be fine either way. So let's lean in. I think just the Shang-Chi play is going to be enough. It doesn't utilize our energy efficiently, but I think that's fine. I anticipate an Arnim Zola for that gamble. The Arnim Zola is going to hit the Psylocke. It's not going to find them the win condition. They'll send the Psylocke to the left, which is 3, which is perfect, and then to the right, which is not enough to win them the Sanctum Sanctorum over there. And so Black Panther, very, very strong, has a very high power ceiling, but also very, very telegraphed. If you have a counterplay to it built into your deck, a Cosmo, if you have some kind of misdirection, then you can outplay the power potential of Black Panther. So if he's uncontested, really hard to beat. If your opponent has the counterplay, it's very hard to win. You can lose some big cube gains pretty quickly. And so with that last win, we're going to take in the 4 cubes. We gain a little bit back from our negative stream from earlier today. And we're going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.